ये गूगल मीट नहीं।
Good evening, students.
गुड इवनिंग मैम।
Can you hear me, all of you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
The number of students are decreasing every day. Today is the last day of this course, right? By the way, are you preparing for your assessment?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Your this presentation. Have you prepared?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
okay. So today's topic is causes of natural pollution. Right. Oh. So what can you see? What can you see here? কি কি দেখতে পাচ্ছ?
Volcanic eruption, fire, forest fire,
Wildfire.
Yes. And
thunderstorm,
yes. Apart from these, are there any other reasons? Any other causes of natural pollution? You have anything on
earthquake,
mind?
landslides,
Earthquakes, landslides.
Acid
Yes.
rain.
Acid rain. Acid rain is indirectly this. Indirectly, it's an anthropogenic cause only. Okay.
Ma'am, global warming, thunderstorm.
Thunderstorms. Yes. Okay. So let us start. All right. I Shreyas is not there today. He had asked yesterday a good question. He had asked that how many countries are working on that wedge. I had the answer was already there. I'm also so mindless. The answer was there only in that PPT. So many countries. There was this schematic representation of so many countries. I'm showing you that. Uh, so all those countries only, all of them here was here. This map. Shreyas had asked or Rahul had asked? Who had asked that question yesterday, last day? Rahul আছে? Rahul nahi? He's also not there. Whatever. So here in this representation, map and schematic representation, here only you can see that these countries had set their targets that they would become carbon neutral or carbon negative, whatever. Carbon negative to carbon neutral they would become by the year whatever. Some said 2045, some had set their targets in 2030, 2060, like, right? So how will they attain this promise, this commitment? How will they make up for this? By working on the wedges only. What is the other way? Are to kono other way to nahi. Until and unless they work on those, they won't be able to become carbon neutral, right? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So these are some countries which is shown over here. There are many more countries who have participated and who have signed. I think it's 137 total. Okay. So, mm, so let's start with today's topic. So why are we so concerned of this anthropogenic causes? You have studied in details, right? Rajrupa ma'am has taught you about this. Um, Shashwati madam taught you about natural pollution, and then Rajrupa madam taught you about who, acha, water pollution, air pollution. All these things you have come to know, right, in the last few days. So what is the basic reason, be it anthropogenic, be it natural cause, which is the main concern, that this global warming thing needs to be reduced, right? And how will that be reduced? Until and unless the greenhouse gases, the major constituent of which is CO2, okay, until and unless there's a control on it, this thing cannot be controlled, right? So this carbon dioxide is very important among those. And by studying about this carbon dioxide in the different ages, since previous your past records and prehistoric and historic ages, by studying this carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere, we come to know that what was the different concentrations of atmospheric gases and uh, uh, okay. So we had also learnt about this parts per billion of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, right? It has risen to how much? For approximately, I had told you that it is around 420 ppm, right? And by 20, by this 2021, না কি বলেছিলাম 2050s 21st century. Yes, by 21st century, what is the estimated parts per million কতটা reach করতে পারে? If it is not put under control, কতটা reach করতে পারে?
1000 এর কাছাকাছি
1000 এর কাছাকাছি reach করতে পারে, right? So the maximum which can be reached, which I had told you, was 1200 parts per million by the 21st century, right? And the effects would already start from by the year 2050, like tuk-tak effects gulo, like increased floods in some places, submergence of some islands, ঠিক আছে, a huge reduction in polar ice caps, scarcity of water. All these things will already start by the scarcity of water will start by 2030, and then the other severe effects will appear by the year 2050, right? So Acha, tell me one interesting thing. Look at, or wait, let me come to it. Do you know this carbon sinks and carbon sources? What are carbon sinks and what are carbon sources? এটা জানো? হ্যালো,
প্ল্যান্টে থাকে মানে সিঙ্ক এন্ড সোর্স, মানে ফুডের হিসাবে প্ল্যান্টের মধ্যে যেরকম ফুড সিঙ্ক আর সোর্স করে ডিভাইড করা থাকে। তো কি যেন বলে, যদি কার্বন সিঙ্ক যদি এরকম করে দেখা যায় তাহলে ওটা প্ল্যান্টসই হবে। প্ল্যান্টস আর দ্য মেইন সিঙ্ক।
আচ্ছা, যেখান থেকে প্রোডাকশন
মানে
অফ কার্বন
বেসিক্যালি
বেশি
যেখানে
হয়,
হ্যাঁ মানে যেখানে প্রোডাকশন আর স্টোর দুটোই হয়,
yes.
বিকজ ফটোসিনথেসিস তো প্ল্যান্টস এর মধ্যে হয়, আর ওদের বাকি সব
So
বায়োলজিক্যাল
so
সাইকেল।
তোমার কার্বনটা প্লান্টস কখন সিঙ্ক আর কখন সোর্স? When are the plant, when can be the plants called as sinks, and when can it be called as sources? When the production is greater than the removal, when actor source যেখান থেকে carbon production is greater than its removal, then it is regarded as a source, ঠিক আছে? But then where the removal is greater when like the plants, their capacity to remove carbon dioxide from the air is also there. Okay, here, see, look here, a reservoir can change from a sink to a source and vice versa. A forest is a sink, but when the forest burns it becomes a source, ঠিক আছে? So when it burns, that means when it starts to provide this fossil fuel over millions of years, when the forests are deposited deep inside, when they change into coal, okay, then they become a source, ঠিক আছে? And when it is having the capacity to remove carbon dioxide from the air, ঠিক আছে, when it is having the capacity to remove carbon dioxide, then it is a sink. Or it can also it also has capacity to store carbon inside it, then also it is called as sink, ঠিক আছে? Like carbon sequestration we had talked about, ঠিক আছে? So the areas where carbon is sequestered deep inside, কতটা ফিটের ভেতরে কার্বন is sequestered, মনে আছে ডেপথটা? Anybody? ইনজেকশন ডেপথটা কত থাকা উচিত? দেখো ভুলে গেছে। Yes, Pallavi was there. কতটা ছিল ডেপথ কার্বন সিকোয়েস্ট্রেশনের জন্য? ডেপথ, what was the depth needed? Pallavi? এই দেখো শালু, शालू
मैम याद नहीं है मैम
7,000 फीट था ना?
यस मैम 7 या 8,000
हाँ, ये वाला था ना? Where was it? Here. কত ছিল? 7,000 feet, I guess. Here, see. Between 6,000 to 7,000, right? This is the injection zone. ঠিক আছে? So where carbon can be stored, those sources and sinks, already you know that it is vice versa. It can be changed from one to the other, right? So when a place has the capacity to store carbon, then it is a sink. And when it produces carbon, when it releases carbon into the atmosphere, then it enters into the environment, then it is regarded as a source, right? The mantle is a source of carbon from volcanic gases. ঠিক আছে? So whenever this erupts in the form of volcano, then it becomes a source, right? ঠিক আছে? So এই atmosphere okay, look at this graph. এই গ্রাফটা দেখো, this is the history of Earth's climate. During the previous year, tomar geological ages in the past, what was different composition, atmospheric composition was different. ঠিক আছে? CO2 concentration was different. Then there were some gases were totally absent, right? Ekdom primordial earth atmosphere, some gases were totally absent, like and then they were added with in due course, okay, gradually they were added to the atmosphere. So how are all these things known? How can we know about all these things? কিভাবে করেছে? So কিভাবে করেছে, like if you look at this graph, this green lines, they show the concentration of methane, right? And this blue lines show the concentration of carbon dioxide, and the red lines show the temperature. So with the increase in temperature, the methane and carbon dioxide, or vice versa, you can also say that the temperature rise and fall in temperature is the effect of carbon dioxide and other greenhouses gases concentration, right? So they are interdependent. So how are these things known? কিভাবে জানা গেল এগুলো? How are these things known? কিভাবে discover করেছে? Atmospheric composition of gases, how did they discover? It's a complicated part, but yes.
Evolutionary experiments, because Earth was first have a reducing atmosphere, then due course of evolution it become oxidizing. মানে ওর last এ Earth এর যে
But the
layer
exact concentration, exact composition, right? Like what you were saying, তুমি ওই ইউরে মিলার্স এক্সপেরিমেন্টের কথা বলছো, তাই না? হ্যাঁ, so that was ঠিক আছে, ওটা ঠিক আছে, but the exact concentration, like the ppm, ঠিক আছে, like primordial earth around এই ইয়ারে এই ppm ছিল, এখানে একটা লাইন ছিল না, 218 ppm it was, and then it increased to 410. See here, in 1958, when the scientists began to directly measure CO2 content from atmosphere at Mauna Loa volcano in Pacific Ocean, it was 316 ppm. Then in 2018 it became 410 ppm. Then before that it was 218 ppm. Okay, a long time back, before the industrial revolution, it was the concentration was that. Before the Industrial Revolution, it was approximately less than 250 ppm. So how are these things known? কিভাবে করে এগুলো? কিভাবে করে? We all know that after Industrial Revolution, anthropogenic activities have increased a lot, and because of that, concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is being increasing. এখন তো we can measure, at present we can measure, but the past, I'm talking about the past, একদম পাস্টে একদম তোমার ওই ঠিক আছে, তখন সাপোজ ইন দ্য তোমার সাইলুরিয়ান পিরিয়ড, সাইলুরিয়ান এজ, ওকে, ডেভনিয়ান, ওই ওই এজের কি কি ছিল? I'm talking about the geological time scale, different times, different periods, or different eras, different epochs. Okay.
ম্যাম ইন্ডাস্ট্রিয়াল মেলানিজম যেটা মৎস্যের মধ্যে ছিল ওখান থেকে তো স্টাডি করা যাবে না, বিকজ এটা তো ডেভোনিয়ান পিরিয়ডে ছিল না, তার আগে মানে ওটা তো
Then human
কিভাবে?
was not. Okay. যখন হিউম্যান ছিলই না, তখনকার concentration I want. How will I know? Here the answer is yes.
রক এজিং বা কার্বন ডেটিং যেগুলো থাকে রক গুলোর মধ্যে, ওখান থেকে করা যায়, মানে কনসেন্ট্রেশন অফ কার্বন, এটা একটা ছিল।
হ্যাঁ, ওইটা একটা ছিল। ঠিক আছে, if the air bubbles are trapped in the rocks and all,
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ,
ঠিক আছে,
কার্বন
সেখান থেকে।
কার্বন
and
ডেটিং।
one very good source is the core of the glaciers. Okay, these data, like this data is from the 3600 meter long Vostok ice core. ঠিক আছে, so from ice cores they do what? They drill into the glacier, they take out long cylindrical ice and they make sections of that. Okay, and then they study those under very powerful, they have computational techniques for studying the different compositions of the trapped air bubbles inside those sections, and they deduced from there what was the actual concentration of the different gases present in the atmosphere of that particular, of the not only one specific time, of the different depths. From different depths you can get the air bubbles of different times. ঠিক আছে?
So আইস মানে আইস করে কেন চুজ করলো রাদার দেন মানে রক, মানে কার্বন ডেটিং করা যেগুলো রক থাকে ওগুলোকে কেন চুজ করলো না?
These are like, see, if it is exposed, like sedimentary rocks jodi ami dhori, sedimentary rock, and then drilling, then here sectioning can be done easily, sectioning of ice can be done easily, and then there's a problem of like that where rocker একটা কি বলবো, igneous rocks suppose, or sedimentary rocks, সেখান থেকে fossil studies you can do. ঠিক আছে, ফসিলাইজেশন এখানে ভালো ওয়েতে হয়, and because of those different organisms are also trapped in between the layers of the sediments. So তোমার air bubbles টা অতটা I don't know, but here with the ice, ঠিক আছে, আইসের ক্ষেত্রে this thing is very, can we, with this data which is obtained is more accurate rather than those the sedimentary layers or igneous তোমার layers. ওখানেও থাকে, I'm not denying it, but this data is more truer, it is more accurate. ঠিক আছে, because it is more undisturbed. You can say that these are more undisturbed.
আচ্ছা ম্যাম।
Okay, কেন ওখানে apart from those there are many fossils and all are also there. ঠিক আছে, so some your this air bubble এ তোমার ওইগুলোর কি বলবো mixed হতে পারে. Okay, and because of that it can the concentration might vary, it might not totally match with the actual atmosphere of the said time, but with this ice core technique the data will be more accurate.
ওকে ম্যাম।
Okay. কার কোয়েশ্চেন ছিল?
ম্যাম আমার।
Sambhavi. So only Sambhavi is talking. There's a message. Let me see. My voice is not audible. Okay. So, why use ice cores? See, your answer is here. Ice sheets have one particularly special property. They allow us to go back in time and to sample accumulation, air temperature, air chemistry from another time. Ice core records allow us to generate continuous reconstructions of the past climate, going back at least 8 lakh years. By looking at past concentrations of greenhouse gases in layers in ice cores, scientists can calculate how modern amounts of carbon dioxide and methane compared to those of the past, and essentially compare past concentrations of greenhouse gases to temperatures. They are now actually dependent on this technique rather than carbon dating from other techniques. Carbon dating তোমার the ওইগুলো fossil studies এর জন্য sedimentary rocks and those rocks are more suitable. ঠিক আছে? কিন্তু for the study of trapped gases এর studyর জন্য this technique is more reliable. It is a question of more authenticity. ঠিক আছে? So
ঠিক আছে ম্যাম।
are you interested in looking how this thing is done?
ইয়েস ম্যাম।
How is this thing done? এই আইস কোর থেকে আইস নিয়ে কিভাবে করে? If you're interested, I'll just show you and then we'll dive into the topic. Okay. So why am I showing you this? কেন দেখাচ্ছি এটা? Because we are concerned with what?
My name's Nerily Abram. I'm an ice core scientist and I work with the British Antarctic Survey. And the reason that I work on ice cores is that they're an amazing way of going back and looking at what the Earth's climate was like in the past. And that gives us information on how the Earth's climate is changing now and how it might change in the future. When you get to a field site in Antarctica, there's nothing there. The people who go to Antarctica and do these sorts of jobs are scientists, but once you get into the field, you're pretty much everything. So you need to build your camp, you become a carpenter, you become an electrical engineer, you're a cook. You have to be able to be very self-sufficient to make the project a success. The drill works on a winch. So when we lower the drill down, we drill about 1.5 meters of ice, and then we bring that to the surface, and we lower the drill back down again and drill the next 1.5 meters of ice. And we keep on repeating that process over and over again until we reach the bottom of the ice sheet. When we drill down through the ice sheet, we're drilling further and further back in time. We drilled an ice core that was 364 meters long, and the ice that we recovered from the bottom of that ice core is over 20,000 years old. This is a part of Antarctica where climate is changing really quickly at the moment, and the temperature has warmed by over 2 degrees in the last 50 years. We're seeing glaciers flowing faster than they have in the past, ice shelves are collapsing. When we cut open the ice, we can see these bubbles of ancient atmosphere that have been trapped inside the ice ever since it formed over Antarctica. And we can actually measure the composition of that ancient atmosphere. And it's through measuring the greenhouse gases from the bubbles in ice cores that we get this clearest link between what the temperature of the Earth has been like in the past and the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And that allows us to have a better understanding of how the climate is changing now and how it might continue to change in the future.
Okay, so কেন দেখালাম এটা? Why did I show you this? Yes?
ম্যাম কেন যে যখন মানে গ্লোবাল ওয়ার্মিং হচ্ছে তো পোলসের দিকে টেম্পারেচার আরো বেশি কি যেন বলে মানে ওই জিনিসটা করা যাবে না, বিকজ গ্লেশিয়ার যদি মেল্ট হয়ে যায় তাহলে তো
Wrote it so
জিনিসটা
that if you really want to work in this field, you are zoologists, very few of you will want to go in that field. That is why, just for curiosity, I showed you this. Okay. And we should know this because it is one of an important techniques to know about the concentration of the most what do you malignant greenhouse gas, which is this CO2. Okay, CO2 and others, all those things we actually need to know that where we are at, what is the status of uh, contamination of the environment at present. Okay, so in order to compare, we should have a very authentic data of the past. So this was just by the name, just ice core drilling. Okay, just by the name, I could have told you the name, but I have shown you so that it would be clear to you that yes, this is the technique and this is the way it is done, so that you can tell the others yes, this is the technique, and uh, I know about this. I can tell you. Okay, and if you are interested, you can also be a part of those teams. But those are basically anthropologists and geographers. Okay, people from those fields are more interested, but it should be open to you also. Well, all right, it depends on the projects which you join in future. It depends on the projects. Acha, by the way, how many of you want to join uh, PhD and research in future? Nobody? Ankita? Nobody else?
ম্যাম হ্যান্ড রেজ করলে হবে?
Hand raise করলে এই তো লিখছে সব. Yes, Shalu and Aritri are interested, I know. But what about the rest?
ম্যাম আমারও আছে।
আছে ইন্টারেস্ট? যেতে পারবে অ্যান্টার্কটিকায়?
হ্যাঁ
না,
নিশ্চয়ই।
অ্যান্টার্কটিকায় নাও যেতে পারো. You have your research interest might be different. All of you. Now everybody is interested. Very good. ঠিক আছে, সো লেট আস কন্টিনিউ। তো ন্যাচারাল কজেস এর মধ্যে সব থেকে খারাপ মানে দ্য মোস্ট কি ভায়োলেন্ট কজ অফ ন্যাচারাল পলিউশন কোনটা? দ্য মোস্ট ভায়োলেন্ট কজ?
Wildfire.
হ্যাঁ,
Wildfire.
ওয়াইল্ড ফায়ার থেকেও তোমার ভলকেনোস, তাই না?
Yes, ma'am.
ভলকেনোস সব থেকে violent, and they have the capacity to produce huge amount of pollution in a day or two. In a couple of days, the pollution which is caused which by different volcanoes is equivalent to years of anthropogenic pollution. Okay, but still it is lesser in amount. Why? Because the number of volcanic eruption is very few. Like in 1 year, around 50 to 60 total volcanic eruptions occur throughout the world, whereas this anthropogenic pollution is going on in a continuous manner throughout the world by this huge population of the earth. Right, that is why it surpasses this pollution due to volcanoes. Otherwise, the intensity of pollution which happens after volcanoes is much more huge. ঠিক আছে? So all of you know what volcanic activity is and how it happens. The pressure starts to build up deep inside the earth. The molten magma, when it is inside the earth, it is called magma. And when the pressure increases, it keeps on increasing. And if it finds a crater, if it finds a crack inside, then it rushes out. Right? Right? And this type of flow, the flow of when magma comes out, it is called what? It is called lava. And this type of flow is called what? Pyroclastic flow. Sorry, this type of cloud-like flow is the pyroclastic flow. and this river of fire which is caused, that is caused what, that is called lava. It's many times it also leads to landslides and all. Okay, then the gases which are produced also leads to acid rain. I'm coming to the effects in detail. First, let us study about the types of volcano. Okay, so the most common and the most less intense is this jet like. Um, okay, and you can see that the this thing, the after ejection, the cloudy material which is formed on top, this is called the plume. Okay, so you can see the plume in the different types. The height of the plumes are different. The highest plume is for this. So how far it will be ejected into the atmosphere depends on what? Depends on the concentration of silica and oxygen. Silica and oxygen inside the molten materials. ঠিক আছে? Inside the molten materials present. ঠিক আছে, যত বেশি সিলিকা এন্ড অক্সিজেন তত বেশি তোমার তত দূর অবধি যাবে। See this is the Plinian eruption. Okay, and this is the most dangerous, most violence, and produces lava bombs, and it reaches up to a height of 55 kilometers, right? আর এইটা দেখো, this is the Volcanion eruption. Here the height is less than 20 kilometers, or approximately around 65,000 feet, 65,600 feet. ঠিক আছে, and it is short and minimal amounts of lava is released during single একবারেই যতটা হবে একবারেই বেরিয়ে যাবে। ঠিক আছে, but here like in the Hawaiian এটা তোমার 1 থেকে 2 দিনের জন্য it happens, and then this Strombolian eruption it happens in spurts মানে ইন্টারভালে কিছুটা বেরোলো তারপরে থামলো আবার বেরোলো, ওভাবে in spurts, it happens in spurts। ঠিক আছে, like sorry, here see কোথায় গেল, the height at which the volcanic plume reaches depends on the pressure within the volcano's conduit tube, and as mentioned previously depends on the amount of silica and oxygen within the magma। ঠিক আছে, right? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so here the pollutants of volcanoes. Pollutants, all right, so water vapor accounts for 80%, and then 79% of water, 11.6% carbon dioxide, 6.5% sulfur dioxide, 2.9% of lesser constituents. Okay, then this SO2, okay, is sulfur dioxide is there, then acidic content is there। ঠিক আছে, when SO2 and this all these things are released into the atmosphere, they react with the water vapor and they form this sulfuric acid and hydrochloric acid, right? And this will ultimately fall down as acid rain. Look at the effect of acid rain. Acha, these are the other volcanic aerosols: hydrogen fluoride, hydrogen chloride, bromide oxide, bromine oxide। ঠিক আছে, see how forests wither, and it is sort of burnt with the due to the acid rain। ঠিক আছে, here effects, somebody read the effects। Yes, who will read? Who is there? Sudeshna Roy. Sudeshna? Sudeshna is not there?
Yes, ma'am.
Please read. Read the effects one by one. Yes, can you see?
ম্যাম নেটওয়ার্কটা খুব ইস্যু করছে, আমার কেটে যাচ্ছিল দুবার।
Okay, I'm only reading. Volcanism should not be ignored in terms of pollution. As mentioned before, one volcanic eruption has the opportunity to outgas as much carbon dioxide in one day than 250 years of anthropogenic activity. And pyroclastic flow at speeds of 700 kilometers per hour and ash clouds reaching up to temperatures of 1000 degrees Celsius make volcanoes one of the biggest natural hazards on this planet. Right? Large regions of vegetation, water sources, and even infrastructure are detrimentally affected by acid. Actually, tell me one thing: that 95% of volcanoes, where are they situated? 90% around 90% of volcanoes কোথায় situated জানো? জানো? Yes? Yes or no? Japan, Africa, Pacific Ring of Fire একটা আছে? Pacific around the wherever this joints, this earth is made up of different tectonic plates, ঠিক আছে? So ওই tectonic plates এর joint গুলো যেখানে আছে, so around this Pacific Ocean, that region is called the Pacific Ring of Fire. It is শুনেছো Pacific Ring of Fire?
Yes, ma'am.
শুনেছো? And apart from that, ওটা তো গেল তোমার ল্যান্ডের উপরে। maximum, where is it? Maximum volcanoes, they are all situated below the ocean. জানো? Most of the volcanoes, they erupt, small volcanoes, big volcanoes, they erupt ওই ওশনের তলায়। Do you know that?
ম্যাম, তো ওটার জন্য সুনামিও তো আসে, মানে ওগুলোর আউটবার্স্টের জন্য।
হতে পারে, হতেই পারে, কিন্তু অত ইন্টেন্স ভলক্যানো ওশনের তলায় অত ইন্টেন্স ভলক্যানো হয়নি, এখনো হয়নি, কিন্তু হতেই পারে, না হওয়ার কিছু নেই। আর ওশনের ওয়াটার, why is it salty? Why is ocean water salty? Do you know? ওশনের সল্ট গুলো কোত্থেকে আসছে?
ম্যাম রক্স গুলো থেকে, যেগুলো
কোন রক্স?
টেকটনিক রক যেগুলো মানে একদম তলায় থাকে ওগুলোই।
তো এখানে কি হয় যে সল্টস গুলো বেরোয়?
ওয়েদারিং অফ রক্স মেইন প্রসেস তো ওটাই, থ্রু ফাইন প্রসেসিং।
ওয়েদারিং হয়ে ওয়েদারিং এর কন্টেন্ট গুলো কে ক্যারি করে? রিভার ক্যারি করে, and river water is fresh water. River water is not salty water.
ম্যাম, বাট কি যেন বলে, অনেক হাইট থেকে আসে না, মানে ওয়াটার যদি আমরা দেখতে চাই যে থ্রু মাউন্টেন্স ওরা কন্টিনিউস হতো তো তো তারপর একটা ওশনে আসে। তো
হ্যাঁ, but still river water is the sweet water. রিভার ওয়াটার তো মুখে নিলে ওইভাবে তো লাগে না, সল্টি তো হয় না রিভার ওয়াটার। ওয়েদারিং থেকে সল্টস থাকে, বাট অতটা থাকে না যে রিভার ওয়াটার সল্টি হয়ে যাবে। So where is the salt coming from in the ocean and seas?
From the
Volcanic
underwater mineral
eruption.
rocks?
হ্যাঁ,
Ma'am, heated by magma.
ম্যাগমা হিট হলে কি হবে? বলছো তো, সবই তো বলছো, না একটু ঠিক করে বলো।
ভলকানিক ইরাপশন যেটা, ওটার জন্যই হচ্ছে, বিকজ ওখান থেকে
হ্যাঁ, ওটার জন্যই হচ্ছে।
আচ্ছা,
আর কিসের জন্য হবে? আর কি হচ্ছে ওশনের তলায়? আর কি হচ্ছে? আর ওইগুলোকে কি বলে? হাইড্রোথার্মাল ভেন্টস আর জিওথার্মাল ভেন্টস শুনেছো?
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম, এটা শুনেছি।
ম্যাম
So this was again discovered in 1947, yes, when the scientists were ওই তোমার গালাপাগোস এর ওই ডিফারেন্ট ইয়েগুলোর জন্য করছিল, সার্ভে করছিল। So they were recording something from the water, ঠিক আছে? তাহলে জায়গায় জায়গায় দেখছিল যে একটা জায়গায় মানে টেম্পারেচার ঠিক আছে as expected, but একটা একটা জায়গায় টেম্পারেচার shot up like around 1200. কি করে হচ্ছে এগুলো? So then they found that there are some vents মানে চিমনিজ তৈরি হয়েছে ওশানের তলায়, ঠিক আছে? চিমনির মতন ফর্ম হয়ে আছে ওশানের তলায়। So when they studied all those, they found that those were actually hydrothermal vents, ঠিক আছে, which is forming due to the eruptions taking place inside the or below the oceans, ঠিক আছে? And because of those eruptions, different minerals are being added into the ocean, salts and ocean, ঠিক আছে? ঠিক আছে?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is also a type of thermal pollution. এটা আগেই বলে ফেললাম, I was about to come to it. So then there is global atmospheric temperatures are altered when reflective gases are expelled into the troposphere and stratosphere. Many gases are expelled into the atmosphere and troposphere. Okay. And then ozone, a vital crucial characteristic of our atmosphere, is destroyed by bromide oxide. Bromide oxide is one of the aerosols which is coming out of this volcanic eruption. Dekho, bromide oxide. And this bromide oxide is destroying the stratosphere. It is destroying the stratosphere of ঠিক আছে, which is causing the excessive UV penetration into this, ঠিক আছে, earth. তাহলে কি কি পলিউটেন্টস গুলো দেখলাম, কি কোন কোন পলিউটেন্টস গুলো হচ্ছে বলো? বলো।
volcanic eruption,
পলিউটেন্টস কোন কোন পলিউটেন্টস হচ্ছে? CO2 হচ্ছে, SO2 হচ্ছে,
HCl আছে, হাইড্রোক্লোরিক অ্যাসিড, তারপরে ব্রোমিন,
সালফিউরিক
ব্রোমিন অক্সাইড, হ্যাঁ, মানে যেগুলো থ্রু কি যেন বলে ভলকানিক অ্যাসিড রেন যেটার থেকে রেজাল্ট করে ওটা।
Yes. Why are the students leaving? 10 হয়ে গেছে। So whom am I supposed to teach? 24 students had filled up the form and there's 10 students here. So some major volcanoes which have happened in the recent past is the St. Helena eruption. Mount St. Helen eruption in 1988 saw a release of a massive plume that covered an area of 600 square kilometers. The massive gas cloud was laden with sulfur dioxide, and up to 3,750 tons per day of sulfur dioxide was released into the atmosphere. The prevailing winds moved 520 million tons of ash eastwards across the United States. The ash cloud migrated across the United States in 3 days and reached around the world in 15 days. Okay. Then another eruption was Krakatau in August 1883. Within 13 days, a layer of sulfur dioxide and other gases began to filter the amount of sunlight able to reach the earth. Atmospheric effects made for spectacular sunsets all over Europe and United States. And the largest of all, in the most recent past, is this Mount Pinatubo, June 13, 1991. Okay, 20 million tons of sulfur dioxide, ash particles, blasted more than 12 miles high into the atmosphere. Volcanic eruptions of this magnitude can impact global climate, reducing the amount. I have live this news of the effects of this Pinatubo eruption. So if you can just look here. যখন হয়েছিল তখনকার এটা
Got a minute? I'm Pete Skirbunt, Defense Commissary Agency historian, with a minute of history. In June 1991, the impending eruption of long-dormant volcano Mount Pinatubo in the Philippine Islands forced the evacuation of Clark Air Base to the Navy base at Subic Bay. 2 days later, the mountain erupted and covered Clark with volcanic ash. The eruption continued while Typhoon Yunya arrived, blowing the ash toward Subic Bay and the Navy base at San Miguel. The wet, heavy ash snapped trees and collapsed roofs. Days were dark as night. Transformers shorted out with loud explosions. In the heat and darkness, there were no lights, air conditioning, or running water. Earthquakes, rain, and vicious lightning terrified everyone. Mud flows covered Clark's commissary floors with mud and ash. Facilities and warehouses at Subic and San Miguel were damaged or destroyed. Only the Subic store reopened, and it closed the next year, when economics, political change, and the end of the Cold War compelled the closure of all U.S. bases in the Philippines. With a minute of history, I'm Pete Skirbunt.
দেখেছো এফেক্টস গুলো কি হয়, ওয়াইড স্প্রেড এফেক্টস। ঠিক আছে, হ্যালো।
Yes, ma'am.
তারপরে related to this, why is this actually happening? Why are volcanic eruptions actually happening? Some volcanic eruptions due to pressurized magma which is coming out of this crater and all. Most of the eruptions are happening because of that. And যেটা আমি বলেছিলাম যে ওশনের তলায় যেগুলো হচ্ছে, and we all know that this crust of the earth is made up of tectonic plates which is continuously in motion, right? Sometimes these plates collide with each other, sometimes these plates move away from each other. Okay, so massive eruptions of fluid lavas can occur when one plate collide with the other, right? And this plate tectonics, they can trigger volcanic eruptions, and they can also alter the climate a lot. All right, over millions of years, as seas open and close, opening of seas and closure of seas, what do you mean by that? Opening and closure of seas ki bojo? Yes, hello.
ম্যাম বিচে যেগুলো হয় মানে ওয়াটার লেভেল অনেক কম হয়ে যায়, সাডেনলি ওয়াটার লেভেল বেশি হয়ে যায়, মানে হাই টাইডস আর লো টাইডস টাইপের।
No. Opening and closure of seeds. I want this answer from you. I'll ask this question to all the semesters in the class. ঠিক আছে, find it. ঠিক আছে?
ওকে ম্যাম।
When all the continents are joined into one supercontinent. Okay. Oh, the answer is already here. What will I ask you? Okay, যখন answer তাহলে বুঝে নি। Over millions of years, as seas open and close, ocean currents may distribute heat differently. For example, when all the continents are joined into one supercontinent, okay, তাহলে কি হবে? All are located near the pole, তাই না? So they will have a continental climate. আর যখন ওশনের ইনফ্লুয়েন্স বেশি হয় তাহলে কি কোন ক্লাইমেটটা হয়? Then that type of climate is called maritime climate. ঠিক আছে? Then অতটা সিভিয়ার হবে না climate. Right, because heat is evenly distributed if the continents are separate with water bodies in between. If the continents are separated with water bodies surrounding them, then that continent or that country will have a more ki bolbo, less severe climate. ঠিক আছে, because heat is more evenly distributed. Plate tectonic movements may help start an ice age. When continents are located near the poles, ice can accumulate, which may increase albedo and lower global temperature. Low enough temperatures may start a global ice age. Achha, speaking of ice age, one more thing I had wanted to tell you, and global warming, arekta jinish ami bolte চেয়েছিলাম in the last class, but I just missed it. একটা জিনিস বলছিলাম না, I am missing something, একটা জিনিস, but that was not man-made, but still I had wanted to tell you this sunspots. জানো what are sunspots?
নো ম্যাম।
সানস্পটস শুনেছো?
ম্যাম শুনেছি বাট জানি না কি।
সানস্পটস অ্যাকচুয়ালি হচ্ছে তোমার sort of storms, explosions in the sun. ঠিক আছে, সানের টেম্পারেচার তো অনেক, রাইট? সো ওই টেম্পারেচার আবার এক্সপ্লোশন হচ্ছে, দেন ইমাজিন হোয়াট ইজ ইট, হোয়াট ইন্টেন্সিটি ইট ইজ অফ। ঠিক আছে, সো আইস এজেস যেটা যতগুলো স্টাডি করা হয়েছে, so it was found that during the ice ages the number of sunspots uh, মানে, were very less or very few, and there were some ice ages where in which the sunspots studied, there was actually no sunspots when those ice ages were happening. So what do we conclude from this? That whenever this number of sunspots are high, the amount of heat which is generated from the sun is a lot higher. ঠিক আছে? And when there are no sunspots, the amount of heat which is generating in the earth is lower. That is why when the ice ages occurred, the sunspots in the sun, there were no sunspots in the sun in some of the ice ages. There is a documentary for that. I was watching it. Okay, got it. Ice age er kotha, just we came across this, that is why I told you. And a plate tectonics ta, could you understand plate tectonics ta?
ম্যাম তো এটা তো পুরো কন্টিনেন্টাল ড্রিফটের কেস হয়ে গেছিল কেন
And
যে আগে।
continental drifter case, but how is it related to pollution? Because some of the plate tectonic movements is leading to volcanic eruption, right? The others is causing this some vents under the oceans, leading to sort of thermal pollution and all. ঠিক আছে, some other plate tectonic movements will lead to earthquakes. All right, all these are causes for pollution, natural causes. They come under natural causes of pollution. ঠিক আছে?
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম।
Then another one is this radioactive material, naturally occurring radioactive material. Naturally occurring radioactive material, sometimes known as norm. All right. It's the term used to describe any radioactive substance that exists naturally in the environment. Norm is found everywhere in the environment, including soil, rocks, water, and vegetation. It is also present in human body and all living tissues, typically found in very low concentrations, with potassium being the most common radioactive element. ঠিক আছে? So from different types of rocks, different radioactive materials are there, which keeps on emitting different kinds of radiations. But how much radiation can we survive? How much radiation? And natural way te jotogulo radiations hocche, is there any harm from that? Is it harmful? What is the harm? What harm can it cause? What is the naturally occurring yes, here. Radiation from norm. Everyone receives a background radiation dose, right? And the average being 1 and 10 millisieverts per year. A millisievert is the unit for measuring the dose of absorbed ionizing radiation by the human body. So highest up till the highest dose which is received by a population of Ramsar, and that is where here. Wait. Here. Hundred times higher in Australia. Okay, and in several other parts like in Ramsar and all, this is the 260 millisieverts has been reported. So still at such a high dose also, no such type of কোনো lethality বা কোনো problem দেখা যাচ্ছে না, but then again there is some accidents due to which exposure হয়ে যায়, right? Like if it is a hotspot of radioactivity, if a region is a hotspot and if ওখান থেকে leakage হচ্ছে radiation or some sort of, then if a population comes in contact with that or then the effect is more severe. Otherwise even if it is 100 times higher, it is not it does not cause any apparent harm to local population, but still it is considered to be a pollutant. It is not wanted, it is not wanted in the atmosphere. Mane, this the average is okay, but such high rates of radioactivity is not required. So anything which is not required in the environment or in the atmosphere is a pollutant. So that kind of lethality as such, or severe diseases as such, is not reported, but still it is regarded as a pollutant. Okay, auto severity it nahi, but still it is there. It is it comes under a pollutant only. It is one type of natural pollutant. ঠিক আছে? Hello?
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম ঠিক আছে।
So which are the regions where highest radioactivity occurs? কোন countries hai?
রাশিয়া, ইউক্রেন।
Yes, Australia, Ramsar, Brazil. In India, Kerala হচ্ছে বেশি,
চায়না।
China. All right. আর কেন এটা এটা কেন বললাম, বিকজ ওয়ের দের ইজ এত হাই যখন হচ্ছে তারও আরো হাই হতেই পারে, বিকজ it is saying because of this we can understand that ওইখানে যে রক্স গুলো হচ্ছে they are huge reservoirs of some radioactive materials, so accidents might happen in these regions, right?
Yes ma'am.
Next is your wildfires. আচ্ছা, wildfires হচ্ছে three layers এ হতে পারে. It can happen at the ground level, then it is called the ground fire. Okay, তাহলে just above the ground যখন হয়, then it is called surface fire. আর when the canopies burn, শুধু tops, tree tops যখন burn হয়, only the tree tops, then it is called crown fire. All right. So wildfire is an uncontrolled fire that burns in the wildland, often in rural areas. And there are seasons for wildfires. And wildfires kothay beshi hobe? What do you think? Frequency of wildfires kothay beshi hobe? Cold countries or hot countries?
হট কান্ট্রিজে।
Hot countries e beshi hobe, right? They are not limited to a particular continent or environment. Cold countries e hoy. And acha, one very interesting thing about this wildfire, wildfire harm to achei, but there are also good points of wildfire. When the earth was gradually ki bolbo, it was flourishing, or it was তোমরা succession পড়েছো ইকোলজিতে?
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম।
ইয়েস ম্যাম।
Succession পড়েছো, right? Now related with succession, এটার কোনো good point বলতে পারো? Wildfire pollution, we will study about pollution. Yes, of course it is causing a lot of pollution, but some good is also there.
ম্যাম আবার নতুন করে আবার আরেকটা ক্লাইম্যাক্স তৈরি হচ্ছে, মানে আরেকটা নতুন এপিসোড তৈরি করা যাবে এটা থ্রু, মানে যেখানে নতুন করে ইনহ্যাবিট করবে অর্গানিজমসরা বা প্ল্যান্টস এর ইনহ্যাবিটেশন।
Yes. Are this coniferous forests, in the coniferous forest they become sometimes they become so dense that the sunlight cannot penetrate through them. ঠিক আছে? And these conifers, they produce two types of what do they call, cones. দু রকমের কোন তৈরি করছে, ঠিক আছে? একটা কোন, they are producing spores which is developing in normal temperature, ambient temperature, ঠিক আছে? আর একটা কোন আছে which will open and release spores only at very high temperature, around 1000 to 1200 degrees Celsius, ঠিক আছে? So whenever these fire outbreaks happen and an area is cleared, যখনই এগুলো হয়, then these cones, they get activated and they open and then they spread their spores, and then new forests come into being. ঠিক আছে? So this way a totally মানে new যেটা বললো সম্ভবী মানে that thing is so wildfire because of this fossils had formed in the olden times, right? They got this submerged away over years and years. All these remnants plants, they got deep inside the earth, ঠিক আছে? And they formed fossils, ঠিক আছে? It was because of this, and also other processes are also involved, not only fire and pollution. Coming back to pollution, what pollutants are produced. Fires can affect air quality. Fires emit carbon monoxide, very harmful. Carbon monoxide, why it is so harmful? Yes,
হিমোগ্লোবিনের সাথে বাইন্ড করতে পারে,
yes, forms what is that compound called?
কার্বক্সি হিমোগ্লোবিন।
Yes, that suffocates a person, right?
ইয়েস ম্যাম।
Recently, only in last month only, some person, a couple, newly married couple, they died just like that. ওই তোমার ইয়ে ওই কি বলো ওটাকে, যেটাতে আগুন জ্বালিয়ে ঘরের ভেতরে ঘুমিয়ে পড়ে? What do you
হিটার,
call it? হ্যাঁ,
রুম
room heater
হিটার।
না, that is electronic, not that. ওই মাডের একটা ইয়েতে
ফায়ারপ্লেস
ফায়ারপ্লেস তো একটা জায়গা হয়, তো সেখান থেকে চিমনি হয়, চিমনি থেকে স্মোক গুলো বেরিয়ে যায়।
আঙ্গিঠি বলে আরো একটা থাকে,
supposed to have fire, right?
আঙ্গিঠিও বলে, আঙ্গিঠি জ্বালানো।
এক্স্যাক্টলি। সো ওটাকে জ্বালিয়ে ঘুমিয়ে পড়েছে, উইন্ডোজ ডোরস ক্লোজ করে। দু গ্রুম মরে গেল, আর don't know what happened to the wife. She was also taken to the hospital. Whether she survived or not, God knows. So that happens, that kind of thing happens. Suffocation and death follows that. Okay. So from fire, this content of carbon dioxide production is high, carbon monoxide production is very high, and along with the other hydrocarbons plus nitrogen oxides, noxes, all of which along with sunlight are needed to need ozone, and all these things are needed to prepare ozone, and not that ozone. ওই এই ওজোনটা তোমার ওজোন লেয়ারে যাবে না। This ozone will prevail here only, and it becomes toxic, it becomes a pollutant, ঠিক আছে? See, unlike ozone in stratosphere, which protects us from ultraviolet radiation, high levels of ozone in troposphere closer to ground level can injure or destroy living tissue. Although the ingredients of ozone can be found in urban pollution, pollutants from fires might cause a significant increase in ozone levels. ঠিক আছে? Even far downwind from fires, this is a scientist who was studying this is taken from a report. The initial about 150 plus minus 30 million tons of carbon dioxide was produced. Okay. Here, this is a report from Alaskan forest, which happened in 2004 August, and it produced approximately 30 teragrams. 1 teragram is 2.2 billion pounds. Okay, 30 teragrams of carbon monoxide. See, and it increased up to 25% of ozone in northern continental United States, and by up to 10% in Europe. ঠিক আছে? Hello? So our next হচ্ছে dust storms. শুনেছো?
ম্যাম ডেজার্টে বেশি হয় ডাস্ট স্টর্মস গুলো,
স্যান্ডস্টর্মস, তাই না? বাট অ্যারিড রিজনসে আর বেশি হয়, আরবান রিজনসেও হয়, অ্যারিড রিজনসে বেশি হয়। So these are what? These are meteorological hazards in arid and semi-arid regions, usually caused by thunderstorms or strong pressure gradients across associated with cyclones, right? Which increase with wind speed over a wide area. These strong winds lift large amounts of sand, dust from bare dry soils into atmosphere, transporting them hundreds to thousands of kilometers away. Some 40% of aerosols in atmosphere are dust particles from wind erosion. Main sources of these mineral dusts are arid regions, North Africa, Arabian Peninsula, Central Asia. So what we are concerned about, the here, global estimates of dust emissions mainly derived from simulation models vary between 1 and 3 gigatons per year, which is a big amount. So we are more concerned about the effects. So let's have a look at the effects. So looking at the effects, it can cause deflation, abrasion. What is deflation? Process by which wind moves particles that are loose from one area to the other. So deflation ফলে তোমার একটা এরিয়া থেকে মুভ করে আরেকটা এরিয়াতে ছাড়ছে, তাই না? তো যেখান থেকে রিমুভ করছে, দ্যাট এরিয়া বিকামস হোয়াট? দ্যাট এরিয়া বিকামস devoid of the topsoil, তাই না? টপ সয়েলের সাথে আরো অনেক জিনিস লস হচ্ছে, রাইট?
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম।
রাইট। আর যেখানে ডিপোজিট হচ্ছে সেখানে অন্য ল্যান্ডফর্মস, ডিফারেন্ট টাইপস অফ ল্যান্ডফর্মস আর ফর্মিং। ইউ হ্যাভ স্টাডিড ইন জিওগ্রাফি। গৌর, ইয়ারডাং, অনেক অনেক ধরনের ল্যান্ডফর্মস তৈরি হয়। Okay, but from the region where it is actually wind lifts the materials, সেই that region suffers, ঠিক আছে? It causes, হ্যাঁ, আর একটা ডিপোজিশনের জন্য কি হচ্ছে, এনশিয়েন্ট সিটিজ বেরি এক জায়গাতে বারবার 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 ডিপোজিট করতে 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 দ্য এন্টায়ার সিটি গট বেরিড ইন দ্য পাস্ট, ঠিক আছে? আর অ্যাব্রেশনের জন্য, ডিফ্লেশনের জন্য আর কি হচ্ছে, blows away the topsoil with nutrients from one area to the other, rendering the soil infertile. সয়েলটা ইনফার্টাইল হয়ে যাচ্ছে, leading to degradation of crops, resulting in food loss, economic loss. All right, so these are the effects, and these are the types. Just for your information, I had added over here. These are the 3 types of wind movements. Okay, creeping movement, saltation, and suspension movement. Okay. Then next comes animals. These animals, we have discussed this thing in the last class also, তাই না? লাস্ট ক্লাসেও এটা দেখেছিলাম, রাইট? Yes or no?
Yes ma'am.
কি বলবে বলো? Anybody? Please remind me what I had told in the last class.
Amount of CO2 and consumed, released by the animals.
More important than CO2, which gas? Soham.
Methane.
Soham. Soham nahi, ঠিক আছে, methane. Okay, huge amount of methane is produced. Another pollutant along with methane, what is that? It is along with methane, কিসের জন্য? Wow. আর বাকিদের কি হলো? হ্যাঁ, so methane and other greenhouse gases, right? এটা আমরা ডিসকাস করেছিলাম লাস্ট ক্লাসে।
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম।
আচ্ছা, These are called cattle, and these are ruminants. Ruminants কাকে বলে? Ruminants কাকে বলে?
ম্যাম কার্ড চুইং অ্যানিমালস ওদেরকে রুমিনেন্টস বলে। ওদের 3টে পার্টস থাকে স্টমাকে, লাইক
তিনটে?
ওম্যাসম, অ্যাবোম্যাসম
তিনটে?
এন্ড
4 parts, ma'am.
Yes, 4 parts.
4 পার্টস, সরি, ওম্যাসম, অ্যাবোম্যাসম,
Yes.
রুমেন।
So these cud chewing animals or the ruminants, they regurgitate their food, and these ruminants they produce huge amounts of methane, right? And I've told you veganer data দেখিয়েছিলাম how vegans use lesser land, they produce 50% less carbon dioxide, এগুলো বলেছিলাম last class. Apart from methane, this content of this is the amount of methane emission per year. All right, this is from cattle, sheep, pigs, humans, and this is the amount of ammonia emission in US per year. All right, this is layers. These are broilers. ঠিক আছে? So these are two pollutants, major pollutants, which are produced by the animals. All right, then we know that plants are our saviors, right? Plants has the capacity to save us from all the global warming and all, right? They can take up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, but if these plants are stressed, okay, if this temperature goes on increasing, then temperature itself becomes a stress for the plants. So under stress, the content of volatile organic compounds which is produced from the plants increase. Okay, then if it increases the normal or basal level, then again it becomes a pollutant. Okay, naturally occurring volatile organic compounds evaporate off pine, citrus trees. Atmosphere contains tens and thousands of different volatile organic compounds, nearly hundreds of which are monitored. Most common is methane. Methane occurs naturally, but human agriculture, this methane I'm not talking about. I'm talking about the volatile organic compounds which are produced from the plants. The most, you look at this. Okay. So, under stress, the composition of this is taken from a research article. So, it is seen that under stress, this volatile organic compounds, their constitutions change, and their hygroscopicity, which means their interaction with water, that also changes. Okay, so if this presence of VOX or volatile organic compounds have the capacity to change the hygroscopicity of atmosphere, then it has got the capacity to influence the climate as well. ঠিক আছে? ঠিক আছে? Hello?
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম।
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, sorry. Here, if you read this, shows interactions of environmental condition, plant for secondary organic aerosol, cloud formation, and climate. Okay, it can affect all these plant volatile organic compound emissions, secondary organic aerosol, and cloud formation and climate. In unstressed conditions, plant emit constitutive VOX. These are constitutive, and these are all induced under stress. Okay, so which can affect cloud formation. Unfavorable environmental conditions like stresses can induce VOX emissions, these red arrows, and climatic changes and resulting environmental conditions can affect the amount of constitution. Again, this if the climate is changing, then again it will cause another stress. So this continues like a feedback loop, closed feedback loop. ঠিক আছে? Right. So the environmental conditions were already acting as a stress for these plants, which is affecting the climate. and that again is a changed climatic condition. Then the changed climatic condition again induces the different production of different rocks in the plants with different hygroscopicity. ঠিক আছে? Hello?
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম ঠিক আছে।
Yes, ma'am.
And the last is thermal pollution. Thermal pollution I've already told you. কি বললাম বলো তো? একদম শুরুতে volcanic eruption যখন বলছিলাম তখন বললাম।
ম্যাম যেগুলো ওশানের তলায় যেগুলো হয়
হ্যাঁ,
থার্মাল
ওইটা
ভেন্ট,
একটা কজ হচ্ছে for thermal pollution, geothermal vents and hot springs. Volcanoes হচ্ছে, আর একটা হচ্ছে lightning. But lightning এর effect হচ্ছে short term, অত long term effect হয় না lightning এর। ঠিক আছে? And lightning এর in association with lightning there is another an important fact. একটা লাইটনিং পড়লো ল্যান্ডের উপর, আর একটা লাইটনিং হলো ওশানের উপরে। ওশানের উপরে কম হয়, but when it happens, when a lightning happens in oceans, then which one will be more intense, on land or on ocean?
Ma'am, ocean.
Ocean. Yes.
ম্যাম জিওথার্মাল ভেন্টস থাকবে, তাই জন্য ওশানে বেশি ইম্প্যাক্ট দেবে রাদার দেন ল্যান্ডস। মানে ল্যান্ডে
রিলেট করে দিলে তো?
হ্যাঁ মানে ল্যান্ডেও হবে।
একটা a researcher working with this lightning, he was studying on lightning. He was doing some research and he did some researches and একটা ছোট arrangement, একটা ছোট কি বলবো মডেল সিস্টেম তৈরি করেছিল, where he saw that he made several beakers, অনেক ধরনের beaker নিয়েছে, সেখানে different beakers contain different salinity of water was different in the different beakers. ঠিক আছে? আর তার সাথে he was producing artificial lightning like phenomenon he was producing, and the effect he was recording. The thing, he had a computational device for recording the intensity of the lightning. ঠিক আছে? The color and the intensity he could measure it. আর দেখছিল যে সুইট ওয়াটারে the intensity was lower and the color of the light brightness increased along with the intensity, and it increased with salinity. And he found that the more concentrated the thing is, the more intense the lightning is. Though with ocean water was also one of the sample, and he found that it is 680 times more intense. 680 times more intense. So you can imagine what effect it will have on the marine ecosystem. If a lightning happens on ocean, what will be the effect on the ecosystem of that particular region? Now, it will not be a widespread thing, but it will be in a small region. It will be the effect will be observed, but the effect will be there, right? Then there will be a change in temperature of the water. টেম্পারেচারে চেঞ্জ হবে, সেখান থেকে ফিশ গুলো and other living organisms will migrate away. ঠিক আছে? পরে ফিরবে আবার, but at that time then all the things burnt হয়ে যাবে, if plants and anything is there, all those will die. And with the increase of temperature, what are the other effects? অন্য effects গুলো কি? Decreased dissolved oxygen, migration, loss of biodiversity. ঠিক আছে? Then if some organisms survive, then they will suffer from different reproductive problems. Plant species, algae, bacteria, multicelled animals all respond differently to significant temperature changes. Right? So these are the causes and effects of thermal pollution. Geothermal vents, hot springs, I have told you. And volcanoes also I've told you. Thermal pollution is a change of temperature in the water bodies. This you know, all of you. Sudden temperature change poses a health risk to a wide range of aquatic amphibious creatures. right? And Shreyas and Rahul, they both of them are not here, but they had asked about the wedges, right? And I was talking about this carbon neutral countries. I mentioned one country which is carbon negative at present, and I was talking about that country. What was the name of that country? Hello, what was the name of that country?
Ma'am, Bhutan.
Bhutan. Why were you not saying? So Bhutan, what is Bhutan doing that the other countries are not doing? How is Bhutan able to be carbon negative and the other countries are so মানে পজিটিভ থেকেও অত কত আগে আছে? They have to work very hard to become at least reduce a considerable amount of carbon dioxide. কি করছে ভুটান যেটা অন্যরা করছে না? Do you know
ওয়াটার
about-
থেকে ওরা এনার্জি
হ্যাঁ,
মানে হাইড্রো ইলেকট্রিক পাওয়ার ওরা ইউজ করে।
টেড টক্স শুনেছো কোনোদিন? টেড টক্স
ইয়েস ম্যাম, কিছু কিছু।
শুনেছো?
হুম।
So I'll show you a TED talk by one of the erudite of Bhutan, and he himself will tell you what they are doing. Okay.
Guys, can you keep it down? Daddy's on a work call.
So pay attention and listen to this. Okay.
Yeah, Deborah.
You'll like this.
I have it here.
In case you're wondering, no, I'm not wearing a dress. And no, I'm not saying what I'm wearing underneath. This is a go. This is my national dress. This is how all men dress in Bhutan. That is how our women dress. Like our women, we men get to wear pretty bright colors. But unlike our women, we get to show off our legs. Our national dress is unique. But this is not the only thing that's unique about my country. Our promise to remain carbon neutral is also unique. And this is what I'd like to speak about today, our promise to remain carbon neutral. But before I proceed, I should set you the context. I should tell you our story. Bhutan is a small country in the Himalayas. We've been called Shangri-La, even the last Shangri-La. But let me tell you right off the bat, we are not Shangri-La. My country is not one big monastery populated with happy monks. The reality is that there are barely 700,000 of us sandwiched between two of the most populated countries on earth, China and India. The reality is that we are a small, underdeveloped country doing our best to survive. But we're doing okay. We're surviving. In fact, we're thriving. And the reason we are thriving is because we've been blessed with extraordinary kings. Our enlightened monarchs have worked tirelessly to develop our country, balancing economic growth carefully with social development, environmental sustainability, and cultural preservation, all within a framework of good governance. We call this holistic approach to development gross national happiness, or GNH. Back in the 1970s, our first king famously pronounced that for Bhutan, gross national happiness is more important than gross national product. Ever since, all development in Bhutan is driven by GNH, a pioneering vision that aims to improve the happiness and well-being of our people. But that's easier said than done, especially when you're one of the smallest economies in the world. Our entire GDP is less than $2 billion. I know that some of you here are worth more individually than the entire economy of my country. So our economy is small, but here's where it gets interesting. Education is completely free. All citizens are guaranteed free school education, and those that work hard are given free college education. Healthcare is also completely free. Medical consultation, medical treatment, medicines, they're all provided by the state. We manage this because we use unlimited resources very carefully, and because we stay faithful to the core mission of GNH, which is development with values. Our economy is small and we must strengthen it. Economic growth is important, but that economic growth must not come from undermining our unique culture or our pristine environment. Today, our culture is flourishing. We continue to celebrate our art and architecture, food and festivals, monks and monasteries. And yes, we celebrate our national dress too. This is why I can wear my coat with pride. Here's a fun fact. You're looking at the world's biggest pocket. It starts here, goes around the back, and comes out from inside here. In this pocket, we store all manner of personal goods, from phones and wallets to iPads, office files, and books. But sometimes even precious cargo. So our culture is flourishing, but so is our environment. 72% of my country is under forest cover. Our constitution demands that a minimum of 60% of Bhutan's total land shall remain under forest cover for all time. Our constitution, this constitution, imposes forest cover on us. Incidentally, our king used this constitution to impose democracy on us. You see, we, the people, didn't want democracy. We didn't ask for it. We didn't demand it. And we certainly didn't fight for it. Instead, our king imposed democracy on us by insisting that he include it in the constitution. But he went further. He included provisions in the constitution that empower the people to impeach their kings, and included provisions in here that require all our kings to retire at the age of 65. Fact is, we already have a king in retirement. Our previous king, the Great Fourth, retired 10 years ago at the peak of his popularity. He was all of 51 years at that time. So as I was saying, 72% of our country is under forest cover, and all that forest is pristine. That's why we are one of the few remaining global biodiversity hotspots in the world. And that's why we are a carbon neutral country. In a world that is threatened with climate change, we are a carbon neutral country. Turns out it's a big deal. Of the 200 odd countries in the world today, it looks like we are the only one that's carbon neutral. Actually, that's not quite accurate. Bhutan is not carbon neutral. Bhutan is carbon negative. Our entire country generates 2.2 million tons of carbon dioxide. But our forests, they sequester more than 3 times that amount. So we are a net carbon sink for more than 4 million tons of carbon dioxide each year. But that's not all. We export most of the renewable electricity we generate from our fast-flowing rivers. So today, the clean energy that we export offsets about 6 million tons of carbon dioxide in our neighborhood. By 2020, we'll be exporting enough electricity to offset 17 million tons of carbon dioxide. And if we were to harness even half our hydropower potential, and that's exactly what we're working at, the clean green energy that we export would offset something like 50 million tons of carbon dioxide a year. That is more CO2 than what the entire city of New York generates in 1 year. So inside our country, we are a net carbon sink. Outside, we are offsetting carbon. This is important stuff. You see, the world is getting warmer, and climate change is a reality. Climate change is affecting my country. Our glaciers are melting, causing flash floods and landslides, which in turn are causing disaster and widespread destruction in our country. I was at that lake recently. It's stunning. That's how it looked 10 years ago. And that's how it looked 20 years ago. Just 20 years ago, that lake didn't exist. It was a solid and wreaked havoc in the valleys below. That destruction was caused by one glacial lake. We have 2,700 of them to contend with. The point is this: my country and my people have done nothing to contribute to global warming. But we are already bearing the brunt of its consequences. And for a small, poor country, one that is landlocked and mountainous, it is very difficult. But we are not going to sit on our hands doing nothing. We will fight climate change. That's why we have promised to remain carbon neutral. We first made this promise in 2009 during COP15 in Copenhagen. But nobody noticed. Governments were so busy arguing with one another and blaming each other for causing climate change that when a small country raised our hands and announced we promise to remain carbon neutral for all time, nobody heard us. Nobody cared. Last December in Paris, at COP21, we reiterated our promise to remain carbon neutral for all time to come. This time we were heard. We were noticed and everybody cared. What was different in Paris was that governments came around together to accept the realities of climate change and were willing to come together and act together and work together. All countries, from the very small to the very large, committed to reduce the greenhouse gases emissions. The UN Framework Convention for Climate Change says that if these so-called intended commitments are kept, we'd be closer to containing global warming by 2 degrees Celsius. By the way, I've requested the TED organizers here to turn up the heat in here by 2 degrees. So if some of you are feeling warmer than usual, you know who to blame. It's crucial that all of us keep our commitments. As far as Bhutan is concerned, we will keep our promise to remain carbon neutral. Here are some of the ways we are doing it. We're providing free electricity to our rural farmers. The idea is that with free electricity, they will no longer have to use firewood to cook their food. We are investing in sustainable transport and subsidizing the purchase of electric vehicles. Similarly, we are subsidizing the cost of LED lights, and our entire government is trying to go paperless. We are cleaning up our entire country through Clean Bhutan, a national program, and we are planting trees through protected areas that are at the core of our carbon neutral strategy. Our protected areas are a carbon sink. They are our lungs. Today, more than half our country is protected as national parks, nature reserves, and wildlife sanctuaries. But the beauty is that we've connected them all with one another through a network of biological corridors. Now, what this means is that our animals are free to roam throughout our country. Take this tiger, for example. It was spotted at 250 meters above sea level in the hot subtropical jungles. 2 years later, that same tiger was spotted near 4,000 meters in our cold alpine mountains. Isn't that awesome? We must keep it that way. We must keep our parks awesome. So every year we set aside resources to prevent poaching, hunting, mining, and pollution in our parks.
So, did you see?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you follow? So, this is how they remain carbon neutral. And if you have some problems relating to today's class, you may ask now. কিছু questions থাকলে বলতে পারো। Yes. Any question?
No, ma'am.